Hey folks, Frank the Pest Geek here. Well, we've been talking about the 12 D's of achieving anything you want in life. And we talked about last week, about doing and the importance of doing. And once you have the dream and you have the desire and you've done, you've done all the research, you got to get going. You got to do. And 99% of people fail to do. They keep talking about it. They keep studying. They need to know more. They are stuck in a rut of procrastination, of perfectionism. It's paralysis by analysis. A lot of people simply just haven't figured out what it is they want to do, what they're passionate about, and they're just not ready yet to do. But achieving and starting up a business or a career or even your daily work, you can apply all this to the daily stuff. It isn't always about the big business or the pest control business. Simply as a tech, having the 12 D's, the discipline that you're going to need. I want to talk to you today about diligence, because diligence goes hand in hand with doing, with everything else. I think diligence is that pendulum in the middle that makes everything happen. The definition of diligence, according to Merriam-Webster, diligent is a steady, earnest, energetic effort, devoted and painstaking work and application to accomplish an undertaking. Diligence. Benjamin Franklin said, diligence is the mother of good luck. This is, diligence is the mother of good luck. Benjamin Franklin. You know, a lot of the times people say, I just don't have any luck with anything. Well, what have you devoted yourself to, which is one of the 12 D's? What are you dedicated to? You know, what do you wake up every morning wanting to do? Well, not what I'm doing now. That's the problem. You can't be diligent, but you can in your daily work. And there is a proverb in Proverbs 10:4 that says, a slack hand causes poverty, but the hand of the diligent makes rich. There is no substitute for being diligent and being totally dedicated to what you're doing, even if it's just in the moment. I hear guys complain all the time, and gals too. I just talk to a lot of more guys than gals, that, well, it's just that I don't really devote myself to it because I'm unappreciated. They don't appreciate at work, or they don't recognize me, or no matter how hard you try, nothing changes and nobody acknowledges you and nobody acknowledges your work. They're not willing to invest in me. Why should I invest in them? What you don't realize is that talk and that mentality is actually being self-defeating, that it's causing the depression, which is another D, in your life, where you just don't feel and it becomes about your feelings and you're not doing because all of these things are conditioned upon all these other people. Versus if you dedicated yourself to being the best, regardless of who acknowledges you, you will see how doors open up for you. There's a D. It's funny, I used to, back in, oh my God, I can't remember now what year it was. I was managing a Mexican restaurant in a store for friends. They were church friends. They were actually very close to me. And they had this store and this business they bought, but they were losing money every single month, and they owned it for a year. They were losing about $1,000 a month. His business was actually in doing bricklaying, and he would do facing and brick, not block, but brick. And he was very successful at that, and he decided to buy this side business, and he had his daughter there, mostly bought it for him and his wife and daughter to, do something and have something, his daughter, because she had a little child, and, her husband worked with him and for something for her to do, but she had no experience managing a business. I was out of a job at that moment. And I said, look, he says, you're looking for a job. It doesn't pay much, but if you can help me out in the restaurant and see what you can do to turn this thing around, I would greatly appreciate it. So I went in there and I started immediately analyzing the business model, understanding the restaurant business. I quickly did some studying on the restaurant business. I knew nothing about the restaurant business. And I read how many turns in the restaurant needed a day, how to price the menu. The menu was underpriced by about 30%. I had to increase the prices about 30% on the menu. Didn't have to fire anybody, didn't have to lay anybody off to make the cuts. Changed our suppliers who we were buying from. Made some 1, 2, 3 changes of very basic stuff that they were missing. Nobody had done any research. Here's a daughter that was in her mid-20s, working in her father's restaurant, didn't have the discipline, the desire, the determination, or anything to learn about the restaurant business and how to run a restaurant. And within 30 days, I turned that thing around and made it profitable by doing 3 basic things that were being done wrong or weren't done at all. And the business started to grow. And although they appreciated me, they were never going to pay me a 6-figure salary for running this little place. I was basically doing it until I found something else. And then I decided to start a food distribution business while I was there, because I had the time while I was there to run it and do both. And I would do that on my own while I was running the restaurant. And the guy next door who owned a tobacco shop, they basically sold cigarettes, bulk cigarettes. He just came into the restaurant and says, man, I don't know what you're doing, but I've watched this. I've been here 14 years. I've watched this restaurant. The amount of foot traffic that has increased since you took it over is amazing. I had an offer from Allstate while I was working that restaurant to get me my own branch, my own franchise. They would train me, send me away to Michigan to train, and offered me basically to start out my own career. The fact that they couldn't acknowledge me and pay me what I deserved for doing the work, because we were doing about $30,000 a month at that time. They were overstaffed. The owner didn't want to let any of these people go. He was deciding what to pay everybody, but he had me managing. And so he had his hands in the whole deal and didn't let me really do what I needed to do. Didn't change the fact that I did what I knew to do, and that I got everyone around me to see what I was doing. The fact that you are a pest control person that decides you're going to be diligent today to be the best and to learn, regardless of whether they are paying you to learn, regardless of whether they will acknowledge it, regardless of anything that happens, that you will be diligent in putting in your best effort today You never know whose client, whose house you're going to be in. I don't know if this thing is making sure that I got the good audio. I just got a message that I couldn't read across my screen, and I got totally distracted. My ADD kicked in. The fact that you might be walking into somebody's house who is the owner of a business who decides he needs a person like you in a totally different career, and that changes your path. Stop focusing on the moment right now. I'm going to talk to you about the things that are going to rob you from being diligent so that you can guard against it, so that you can be diligent. And do this. A story about, this I just lost my train of thought again. I'm exhausted. For years, since 2007, I started doing work with IPM and organics and reduction. And when I decided to go into GHP, General Household Pest, Residential Pest Control, because I specialize mainly in ornamentals, I decided to study everything about IPM and learn everything I could about IPM. And I went to Google Scholar, and I said what problems I was having, mainly German cockroach problems here in Miami. That's 30% of our business. In apartments, there's so many apartment buildings, so many slumlords that don't take care of people. And I had to learn how to solve a roach problem in a single unit where we didn't have control of the rest of the building, get control for that client, wipe out the problem and help prevent it, and teach the client about IPM in order to do it. And I was writing so much about it, and I was putting out so many videos, and I was putting out so many blogs about it. And I got a call from Florida International University from a group of doctors that were doing an asthma study in the inner city of Liberty City, and they needed a company that specialized in IPM that had my philosophy. They read all about my philosophy and what I thought and what I did, and they knew IPM. I mean, these doctors, when I looked them up, they had been written up in like northern. Oh, okay. I know why. Let me take the battery off. That's what it told me. It's the temperature on my phone could increase. I got enough battery. And they had been written up in IPM of the IPM Institute of North America because of their work that they already had done in asthma studies and roaches in the inner city. And I had read up on all of this. I understood the terminology. I understood the mentality of these people. I was reading Brenner. I was reading Deanie Miller, who had published so much stuff. And I had already created a concept, and I already was doing it. And when I talked to them and I sat down about my philosophy and what I thought and why I did it, they were like, okay, we're a good fit. You're a small company. We can work with you. What's the budget for you to do this? And I got the job of, getting what I wanted, to be able to participate in this study with a published study by a group of doctors doing an asthma study. And I got the criteria and I got the protocols of what they wanted, and I was able to pull it off. And the reason I was able to pull it off is because I had been diligent. Whether nobody knew it or not, whether nobody acknowledged it, to be the best at this, reducing this roach population in really infested apartments where we only had control of that one unit, and all the other apartments, we didn't know what was happening. This is the mother of good luck, was diligence. I got lucky because I did the research. After I did the research, I went into the field and I applied it, the research methodology, proved that what they had written works, and then was prepared to be part of something great and to be recognized for doing this. When nobody was talking about it in Miami, nobody wanted to do it. Understand that this is HUD. This was HUD Homes that supposedly they were supposed to be doing IPM. The companies that were there were supposed to be doing IPM. What I hear from everybody in the industry is you can't do IPM in there because the place is so dirty. I've got video footage, hundreds of pictures and video footage of what was the situation and how dirty this was, and it couldn't be done. And everybody had thrown up their hands in the air, and HUD had thrown up their hands in the air. The pest control companies were coming in and doing spray and pray. We understood going in that this was a 6-month project, and we from all the literature, we knew that we could do it in 6 months. And we did a trial. Later, that trial became a full-term study. A year later, we got full funding. I donated about $100,000 worth of labor because they couldn't come up with all the money to do it right. This is the double-edged sword of IPM, that it is much more expensive. The fact that they only got $25,000 to $30,000 to pull this off in 40 units, and we ended up donating double that, triple. We donated about $100,000 in man hours and labor and profit for a year to do 88 units. So think about it, $150,000 to clean out 88 units in a year. That was the reality of doing IPM. I get messages all the time, guys. Hey, look, I'm watching your videos and I'm listening to what you're saying. How do you do it? And I said, exactly like I showed you. This, but the problem is the company I work for sells these jobs so cheap, I don't have the time to do it. I says, here's the reality. If you don't have the time, you can't do it. It can't be done. So being diligent for me has been rewarding my whole life because I did it no matter who acknowledged it. I did it for self-satisfaction to prove that it could be done. And then we figured out how to streamline it. We used that 1.5 years to really test and put to my test my protocols, which did work. We did get the result over 80% of the time very quickly. Within 90 days, we got the control for most people. 50% we did it within 30 days. And to get that 5% that was just the really dirty, really neglected, really like they didn't cooperate in anything, food all over the place, dirty clothes all over the place, nothing was going to change. That took us 6 months. But it gave me the opportunity then the experience of the diligence of doing, and I'm going to talk about that, gave me the opportunity to perfect my craft. What's going to keep you from being diligent right now, at this age, at this time, is the inability to choose. Young people that haven't figured out their career path yet, that haven't devoted themselves to anything, haven't done it because they haven't tried enough things. This is where I believe the gig economy is helping, but it's also making it hard and difficult for companies to hire because young people, and I say kids and I mean young people, 18 to 25, are choosing not to go to college because they don't know what they want to study. They haven't devoted themselves to anything, and they've decided to take on gig jobs in all kinds of different fields, testing all kinds of different things, experimenting all over the place. The gig economy, the Ubers of the world, the home delivery companies, Amazon, is allowing young people to try different jobs and different things to figure out kind of what they like in different areas. They're not going to walk into the mom and pop dry cleaner and apply because that is too restrictive. It doesn't give them enough freedom. The gig economy gives them freedom. The Fivers of the world, the Upwork of the world, where kids who have art talent can, 99 designs where you can compete, is making it more appealing for them to go in there, experiment with different things, not be committed to anything, not saying I got to show up from 9 to 5, and if I don't show up tomorrow, you're upset at me. And it's making it more difficult for you to find people because they're not willing to work for the traditional employer. When 78% of the business you drive down the street are mom and pop businesses, 1 to 5 employees with no opportunity to move up in the company because you're never going to get higher than the owner. You're never going to get higher than the son of the owner. You can be a manager, you can be an assistant manager. Drive down Main Street America, drive down any busy street. 78% of all the businesses there are mom and pop. You've got the big corporates like the McDonald's that teach you work-life skills and give you work-life balance. And they pay minimum wage. And this is what everybody's upset about. All these adults are working at McDonald's and fast food when that was never designed for them. It was designed for the young people that fortunately, after 2009, those people found themselves displaced. They weren't retrainable. They didn't want to retrain in a new career. They decided, I need a job, but this job doesn't provide a living wage. I needed to provide a living wage because I don't know how to do anything else. I don't want to learn how to do anything else. And took all those jobs away from all the young people. Young people today are saying, mothers are quitting their jobs and saying, I can go deliver groceries all morning, drop my kids off at school, be done by 2, get home, make dinner, go pick up my kids, take them to ballet, not have to punch a time clock, not have to tell my boss where I am. Yeah, I'm not making as much, but I have all my freedom and I have all my time. And you're wondering why you can't get them to go work in the office anymore from 9 to 5. And when they need to take off time for their kids and be time with their kids, it's a big hassle. So the gig economy is making it very interesting for people to try things. The problem that young people have, and there is a syndrome known as FOMO, the fear of missing out. They're not willing to commit to anything. This is why they're getting married late in life. It's changing. Everything is changing. This idea that I want you to get married and have kids before I die so I can play with my grandchildren, you might never see your grandchildren. There was an old saying, do what you love and the money will follow. Do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Here's the problem. I don't know what I like. I don't know what I love. I don't love anything. I'm not in love with anything. I'm just trying things and I just can't find anything. And part of it is you have a dilemma where if we wanted a career, we had the library back then. The internet wasn't even in play when I started messing around with computers and doing computer programming. The most we can do is connect one computer to another via phone that we, took the phone and put it on this thing and it actually communicated across the phone. Later we had a modem. There was the phone modem that you had to lay the phone actually on top of this device. And I didn't know what careers were available because I went to the local college and I looked at what was available. That was it in careers. I mean, my limit was my conversations with people, what was being talked about in the news and newspapers, and being told by a recruiter, this is the next big thing, this is what you need to get into, this is the future. The recruiter's job was to get as many people as he could, naive me, so he could get his commission check because he's a salesman. He could care less about. He never did an assessment on me to find out what my strong suits were. He could care less. He needed to meet his quota. He was a salesman. And he sold me on the idea of computer programming, and I was already into coding and all this. I thought I was going to be the next big programmer that was going to write the next big code for something. We have a syndrome that is called overchoice or choice by overload. It's a cognitive impairment that makes it difficult for us to make decisions. When you have everything available to you because it's on the internet and you have 1 million career choices, you will choose nothing. I consulted a bunch. I recommend every parent, every student, every high school student, get there is a program, and I just lost my train of thought on it. It's 2.0, Strength Finders. There we go. Strength Finders 2.0. Strength Finders is an amazing source for you to figure out what your strengths and weaknesses are. And then and I've done enough counseling with kids that said, you don't have really what it takes for that career based on what I see in you. I could be wrong. I would consider you learn more about what your strong suits are. My brother-in-law was one of them. He went into film right out of high school because his father told him you had to get a job or you go to school. He wasn't getting a job, so he decided to go to school. When parents do that and they force their kids into that situation where, you're 18, you need to decide right now what you're going to do with your life. He opted to go to film school. And I said, bro, you're never going to be in Miami. You got to leave. You got to go to California. You got to go to all these places. He wasn't going to do that. I said, it's a really tough career. What are you going to be, a camera guy? I don't think you have what it takes for that. You're this, you're like that, your personality type. I've known him since he was 14. Turned out he dropped out, went and got a job, did that for a while. 2 years later, decided he was going to be a physical therapist. And I said, see, now there's a career that your personality is suited for. You're a caring person. You can kind of work with your hands. You're not very handy, but you can. And it's going to require you a lot more intellectual knowledge than actual dexterity. I think it's appropriate, and he did. He works for me now. He has a technician. He's been working with me now for 2 years. He just got his associate degree. I'm waiting 1 more year before I kick him out because it's not in his best interest to stay with me till the end of his school and not start looking for work where he could get the experience so that when he graduates, he already has a years of experience. But this job allows him the freedom he needs to go to college, work his hours, do what I need him to do, and have that flexibility and that pressure where he can schedule himself. He can decide when he works, when he doesn't. It works. And I talk about this and people are like, well, you don't know what you're talking about. You're going to go broke. He produces as much as any average tech across the country. I don't need to kill him. Works 4 days a week. He has 1 day a week off. He chooses what day that is. As long as he communicates with his clients, he schedules his own schedule. I'm paying him more than anyone in the industry. So when I talk about these things, it's not theory, guys. When I post something on Facebook, is that I'm freaking doing it and I've been doing it. But that overchoice, there's a reason why when you go to any website in America and you have 3 plans, sales strategy, 3 plans, good, better, best, silver, gold, platinum. When you go to the dealership, you only get 3 plans when you're in closing. The sales is really done by the finance guy at closing. It's not done by the salesman who gives you the keys to test drive the vehicle. He's really not selling you a damn thing. All the sales is done really in finance. when we start talking about the real numbers. This is why those guys make the big bucks. And this is why he presents you with, hey, the car has a 3-year, 36,000 mile warranty. You're going to be in business and you're going to use it for at least 6 years. You want to get the extended warranty, why you want to get the maintenance package, why you want to get the extended warranty and the maintenance package, why you want the extended warranty, the maintenance package, and the gap insurance. And you get 3 packages, and this is what your monthly payment is going to be with these 3 packages, but this covers you for everything. When faced with so many options, people don't have the ability to make decisions. Chances are you're going to choose one of the 3, or you're going to say, nah, I'll do my own everything and I'll take my chances. That's when the sale is really made. The other problem that you have is the inability to focus. The reason you have an inability to focus is because there's too many options. You're looking on the internet. You're looking at these ideas that you can invest in Bitcoin and become the next Bitcoin billionaire. Problem is, you don't even have a job. You don't have enough to invest and buy Bitcoin to be the next Bitcoin millionaire. Focus means follow one path unto success. Remember that. Follow one path until success. 5 words. Follow one path until success. And the reason so many people are unhappy, if you look at the numbers of people that are unhappy in their marriage, the number of the people that are unhappy at work, it's about the same percentage. Patrick Bolton, which I had a conversation, I think I've mentioned him before. We had a conversation many years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago, where he developed this psychological, the guy is a consultant to the HR industry. He's been an HR recruiter. He's been in this for 30 years. And he says, Frank, happiness at work has to do with happiness of the person. Your job is to find happy people that will be happy at work, not trying to turn unhappy people into happy employees. And he came up with this whole process. Look him up, where you're committed to hiring happy people and how to find through assessment-based work, saying this guy will, chances are, or this gal, chances are. So your job is to find the 33% that is happy and recruit them and pay them above average wage, 30% over what the market is paying, to keep them, hire them, retain them. And that is the big challenge that we have as independent pest control people, is that it takes a lot of these skills. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of money to recruit and hire, train, retrain, onboard. Most mom and pops do not have this ability. This is what makes it so difficult. So a lot of people just opt for putting warm bodies on ships and then hope it works out. And I did consulting about a year ago where I went into a company to assess this and evaluate it, and more to learn and observe and get the experience. And talking to the owner, he had grown, but he was putting warm bodies in the truck with no training. He was bringing in manufacturers' reps to do the training. The problem is they were training on the products, trying to sell them product. So the manager kept buying all these products, and there are people. I went into the point where I followed them in the field, and I said, let me see what they're doing in the field with what the training. You had the rep to teach them on this product. Let me see how they're applying it in the field. Crack and crevice spot treatment, especially around and inside the. So I said, okay, and you know what these guys were doing? They were baseboard spraying the front of all the appliances. I said, they took the training from the manufacturer. They're out there in the field applying it wrong. So I went and taught on the label, and then I took a tech in the field. And this is where we're going to be talking about declarative knowledge and procedural knowledge. And these are all the things that you really, if you're going to be committed, you have to be committed to both in pest control. And this is where I think the industry has it wrong about technical training. Is technical training really is more declarative knowledge than actually procedural knowledge in the field. And I'll prove it to you. So I taught on that label specifically. Then when I went out in the field with one of the best technicians, that was the guy with the most experience. He had been working for a large brand for several years. He did their termite work and he did all this. And I took him out in the field and I said, okay, based on what you know that I taught in the class and based on the label, how are you going to apply this product? And he proceeded to do what he normally does, baseboard defense. He says, no. Let's change the tip. Let's go into the field and let's take your B&G and we're going to use a pin stream. And you're going to pin stream like this around the stove. You're going to go underneath. You're going to go up, across, the back, this and that. If you put a pin stream and you put it inside and it doesn't come outside, you basically comply with the label. You cord it off every possible way that this roach could get through that liquid. It's covered everywhere. And now we're going to go in and we did this to about, I spent an entire day, listen to me, I spent an entire day with this one technician. We did, I think it was close to almost 100 apartments. Start at the bottom, go like this, go across with the pin stream inside, go do the same around the refrigerator, and do it where you can get it around the dishwasher, where none of it is on the floor, none of it is visible. We did this an entire day. I walked beside him, and the moment he would be like veering off to just be lazy and just go like that, I did no. Around the refrigerator. 100 times I repeated myself. The following week, I went with this company, by the way. I was there for 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Every single day. For 3 weeks. Doing training every single day. Both theoretical, management, sales training. And I said, man, you got a mess on your hands. You've got a bunch of warm bodies that just don't care. You're going to end up firing 2/3 of these people and hiring people. And I gave them the methodology and I gave them the assessments and I gave them all the tools. I went back the following week. He was already there doing. What did I catch him doing? Baseboard spraying the entire house. And I said, what are you doing? That you can't do this? That you've got to do it this way? Oh, yeah, I forgot. How can you forget? We did 100 units together. You're the brightest mind they have. You know, Elon Musk is quoted as saying, you don't need college to learn stuff. Everything is basically available for free. That is true. Having declarative knowledge versus procedural knowledge, you're doing a ton of studying and you watch all these videos. I had a guy work for me who had been doing the gig economy thing. He had like 5-6 jobs. And we were talking and I said, you know, you did this and you did that. And he says, why didn't you continue doing the, you know, he learned how to be a locksmith. And he worked for this guy that said, you know, I'm going to pay you 25% of everything you do. But then he was, you know, instead of, you know, everybody in the business charging $200 to go open a lock, this guy was charging $69. And I said, bro, with $12, I'd drive for an hour in traffic to make $12. And he really was looking for something. He's had an enormous amount of jobs. He was 30-something. He was already a millennial. Wonderful guy. I loved him to death. Couldn't stick to anything. Even when I taught him how to do it right, he would veer off and try to do it his own way. And I said, you can't violate my protocols. I've devoted 10 years. This has been tested. You can't change it and try your own thing here. and couldn't stick to one thing. That, it was very hard to get him to focus. That was the problem. He was up and down. Today he was fine, yet tomorrow he wasn't fine. And I love him to death. Wonderful soul, wonderful human being. He had almost a bachelor's degree in education. He couldn't teach. I had him try to teach people. He didn't know how to teach. This is the idea that the declarative knowledge versus the procedural knowledge. I'm going to show you some stuff. And he said, in his quote, he said, you don't need to go to college to learn stuff. Everything is available basically for free. He would literally sit there and watch videos on how to pick locks and watch all the videos. And, he could have gone to work for another locksmith, which was easier to do than pest control because it requires so much knowledge. We're going to look at this in a minute. And I get this question asked all the time, Frank, I want to do organic pest control. And I tried to go over there to this company for 3 weeks. Finally, the owner said, dude, we need to take a break. This is my blood pressure went so high because going in there with this group of people that were so unstructured, unorganized, the manager could not reel them in. He basically just kept hiring warm bodies, had 100% turnover. While I was there doing training, 2 service managers that week. One was fired, one quit. Employees would come in and literally see this organization and said, forget it. I don't even want to be here. His manager, one of the managers later, was sent to the hospital with so much stress. This is what I'm talking about you got to have a culture in your business. You got to have these things in place if you're going to hire people, because you're saying people won't stick around. People will never stick around in that kind of environment. This is the environment that most people have. It's chaotic. Thriving on chaos, like Tom Peters. I read the book in the 80s. People don't thrive on chaos. I did. You do as an owner. I had a conversation. I said, bro, do I really need a training manual and a training program and a video to teach these people everything? Are people really that stupid? And I said, no, you don't understand. It's not that they're stupid. It's that they're not you. And you fly by the seat of your pants. You want to be all over the place, and you want to be creative and a free spirit, and you want everybody to come in and absorb that, and they can't. Declarative knowledge. Here is declarative knowledge. People ask me all the time, bro, how do I do organic? How do I do eco-friendly? How do I do IPM? And I give them I wrote the complete cockroach resource guide to getting complete cockroach control, except it isn't a guide. It's every single study that I ever read that influenced what I know about pest control, about roach control, especially in very, very difficult situations that are almost impossible. How to do it without spraying. And then everybody will inevitably tell me, yeah, but you got to do spraying. You got to do it, especially in an environment where they don't clean. I said, you don't have to. We can do it with just IGR bait, dust bait, and monitors. No, but bro, I've been told it can't be done. The difference between you and me is that I have both the declarative knowledge and the procedural knowledge. Have successfully done it in the most stressful environment, pulled it off, and learned from the mistakes I made and perfected it. And I will give you all the studies, and you'll say, I don't have time to read all that, Frank. Can you break it down for me? He says, I would have to look at my videos. My videos actually show you how to do it. He says, yeah, but there's something missing. You're not telling me the whole truth. I said, no, that's it. I give everything I have in that video. Homeowners that look at my video and don't follow it exactly, and they fail. They say, well, it doesn't work. I said, no, you missed something. Go back. What did you do? Let me show you something about some of these studies so that you can see and where I got it from. Let me get over here. All right. So comparative study of integrated pest management and baiting for German cockroach management in public housing. Cost and efficacy comparison of integrated pest management strategy with monthly spray insecticide applications for German roach. Influence of hydroprene on German cockroach populations in public housing. Quantifying the efficacy of the assessment-based pest management (APM) program for German cockroach in low-income public housing units. This is Deanie Miller, by the way. Cost-effective, community-wide integrated pest management for German cockroach allergen insecticide use reduction in low-income housing. Integrated pest management of German cockroach in manufactured homes in rural North Carolina. Trailers. This is Brenner, Richard Brenner. And it goes on and 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 on for 75 studies that I had to get the knowledge of reading these, turning them into something practical that can actually be done in the field, reducing it down to 4 methods, 4 steps, reducing all this down to 4 steps, learning where is the best place to do this, that, and the other, proving these studies right, checking their timeline against my timeline, and then testing it in the field for 10 years. And yet somebody will still argue with me today that I'm wrong. When I took an ATSB that I had been testing for over 2 years, when it was under one brand, an ATSB is an attractant toxin sugar bait. Using it on a property from a client that said, Frank, I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't go, I've tried everything. I can't get rid of these mosquitoes, including having 2 of their trap stations there that didn't work for them. Being in that house for 14 years, having brackish water, tree canopy that looked like a jungle, a next door neighbor with literally planted thousands of bromeliads. And we go in there and we start testing this ATSB. For 2 seasons, she says, it's amazing what you've done. I haven't been able in 14 years to come out here. Yet I'm using an ATSB that nobody knows about, that everybody in the industry would laugh at and say it would never work, especially who's manufacturing it. I tested it, used it, bought it from a company that specializes in selling to government contracts, got it directly from them. Nobody else in the industry was selling it except them. Tested it for 2 years. I do a demo video on it. I have the declarative knowledge, but also the procedural knowledge to more extent than anybody else in the industry has done with that product that's documented it. Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Calvin Coolidge. I recommend the book by Robert Greene called Mastery. Understanding what it takes. See, I understand that for 2 years on that property controlling mosquitoes, I went there every 2 weeks to monitor and inspect and talk to the lady. We tried it monthly. Monthly didn't work like the label said. We had to go every 2 weeks. And when we went every 2 weeks, she said, it's amazing. The bromeliads that were breeding 100,000 mosquitoes literally 10 feet from her property, we dealt with by using an integrated approach of applying IGR in that area. Then later, now we got IntoCare, and we did the combination of IntoCare with an IGR application for certain spot treatment in high areas where water is there. We're not going to leave the water there not treated, using the bait together with it and using an integrated approach where we use a holistic approach. It says, but that's expensive. Yeah, we don't do anything less than $89 a month for less than a quarter acre. But the testing for 2 years is more experience with that product than anybody else had in the industry that was using that product. The inability to focus, I want to talk to you about and circle back to that. There's a bunch of studies out about the inability people have to focus. One of them is called the relationship between the wandering mind, depression, and mindfulness. An actual study looking at the wandering mind, depression, and mindfulness, and then, which is a similar study related to it, it says a wandering mind is an unhappy mind. And what they related to is basically going back to the smartphone. We have Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and we're constantly addicted to comparing, looking at what everybody else is doing, everybody else's dreams. And when we don't want to live in our reality, we go to here, and everybody else has got it better than I do. Everybody is, let me tell you something, on this phone, everybody is posturing, everybody's faking it till they make it, everybody is making it seem like they got it more together than they really do, and nobody's got it together, including me. When they looked at the study and they found 60-something% of people, when they asked them what they were doing at that time, if they were engaged in what they were doing, said no, they were doing something else. And then they started asking, 60-something% of people were unhappy doing what they were doing. This escape into an alternate reality that is an illusion. When you listen to people, but I posted, and I did one post, and I did a video, and the video didn't work, only 9 likes. And then I look at the Kardashians, and they got 1 million. I said, you're comparing yourself to that? Start showing your breasts. I don't know. The inability to focus. I got links to all this, by the way, so that you can do it. The inability to focus because you're the fear of missing out, because something else is out there and you don't want to commit to anything. You're going to be 30-something years old. You're going to be 40 years old. And hopefully you'll have enough experiences to really dedicate yourself to something and be an expert and launch your business and be successful. But understand that it's robbing you a lot. I don't watch the news. I only spend about maybe 10, 15 minutes a day on Facebook, mostly posting stuff to encourage other people. But I don't sit there like my daughter's like, oh, you're on TikTok and you're this. I'm following you on TikTok. My daughter's following me on TikTok. Shouldn't let your kids be on TikTok because of this, and that. Listen, you can't shelter your kids from the real world. My job is to train up my child in the way she should go, and when she is old, she will not depart from it. How many followers do you have? I don't know. I haven't checked it. I don't check my Twitter account. I don't check my LinkedIn account. I don't check the only thing I see is my YouTube, because I'm on it so much that it shows me how many followers we have on YouTube. I don't know how many friends I got on Facebook. I don't know how many followers I got on my group. I worry about creating the content. I don't worry too much about, because the people that it's really making an impact for, if it's 9 people, if it's 10, if it's 100, it's who it matters for. The other one is Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, about the 10,000-hour rule, or what it's going to take to be world class. Let me show you. In addition to all those 90-something studies, I also have about a 90-something studies that I studied on natural oils. And I have the study published. All the links. People were like, what do I, you got to learn what I learned. I can give you I'm going to be creating courses on this because I realize people aren't going to go through it, but it takes a long time to build a course. I decided this year that I have enough content to create 2 academies, one for homeowners, one for the professional industry, to teach homeowners how to do it because they're never going to use you. That's just a reality. 80% of people, 90% of people are never going to use you no matter what. They're going to do it. I'd rather them learn how to do it right. Teach the world IPM. I have a 10-year-old to make IPM a household name, not under IPM, but under Holistic Pest Control. But let me show you something. I'm reading this book. It's actually a novel. It's called Rats, Observations on the History and Habits of the City's Most Unwanted Inhabitants. It's about Manhattan. It's a great novel. New York Times bestseller. Here is the IPM for professional. This is the guide on how you become a ace. I wanted to go this year to take it with Paul Bello. I couldn't because at the same time, months before, I had lost my mom. I had gone through a divorce, and then during that time, what he was doing, I was in the middle of finding a house to buy because I had to, and I was under that, and I couldn't take off because on the weekends I had to go look at houses and meet with the realtors, and I couldn't do it. Here is what we need to learn as a professional, applying pesticides correctly. This is the manual, how to apply a pesticide correctly. This is what we have to learn. Here is a Spanish book that was loaned to me by an extension agent, which I got to give back as a Spanish book on arboriculture because I am into ornamentals. And this is a Spanish one. It's actually really good. It's kind of thin. Here is the Arborist Certification Study Guide. I'm not a certified arborist. I don't want to be. I don't want to go through the process. I want the knowledge. So I study how to properly trim trees. It says, where did this guy get his knowledge? He doesn't have a degree. He doesn't have a license. He doesn't have... No, I got the knowledge. See, what Elon Musk said is absolutely true, but I've been doing it for decades. Here is General Household Pest Control. This is what you got to learn from University of Florida to get your license. This is the manual. This is what customers don't understand about how much study we really have to do. And they will never read all this. Here is Wood Destroying Organisms, Applicator Training Manual. Here is Lawn and Ornamental Pest Control, the manual. Here is the Cockroach Combat Manual by Austin Frischman and Paul Bello. This one is signed by Paul Bello somewhere. There he is. And also by Austin Frischman. That guy's my hero, by the way. I decided to be eco-friendly because he said that was the future of pest control in 2007, I believe. Here is Pest Management Operations. This is the entomological study book from Purdue University, Pest Control Operations. Here is the Handbook of Pest Control by Malice. Not to mention the Field Manual, which I have somewhere and still in a case somewhere that I haven't taken out. These are all the books I use to learn what I learned. But before I did this, I got it from my IFAS University site. Last year alone, I spent $3,000 on my personal education at the University of Florida in pack, I believe. Here's WDO Inspections, the manual. Termites, Master of Termites class. And Foundations class. That represents about almost $4,000 of personal investment. And I don't have people are like, bro, but I don't have the money to buy the books. Go to your university, IFAS, and look it up and read the entomological information. It's free. And people, you know what people tell me all the time? Yeah, bro, but I don't have the time. Can you just digest it for me? Yeah, you want to ring me up on my phone, take an hour of my time because you don't want to put in the investment for you to become a professional when the information is free. You don't have the money to buy all these books. That's fine. You can go to any of your state, university, entomology website, and it's all there. And yet people won't do it because nobody's paying me, because nobody appreciates it, because you don't have to go to college. I sat around a table with 4 manufacturers reps from a company, and one of them asked me, says, what degree do you have? Because you talk about so many scientific stuff that most pest control people don't know anything about. And I said, I don't have a degree. I mean, I have a degree in computer science, but I don't have a graduate degree. I don't have a PhD. But I read all the material that is published by PhDs, and I've become an expert. And for 10 years, I devoted myself, and now I've been 15 years in the industry. For the last 7 years, I've dedicated myself to putting out 400 or 500 videos now, 300-400 podcasts. I've lost count. I have no idea how many. 400 blog posts. And then you're asking me, how come I'm getting calls from all over the world? And I'm posting leads from all over the country. I'm getting calls from all over the world to teach, that people want me. And I decided I'm going to devote myself to teaching because I love it, but I also am practical in the field. I understand what it takes to get it done. Mastery, 10,000 hour rule, devotion. We're going to be talking about that. Next week, we're going to be talking about development. I think it's important, but understand that diligence, getting it done. Right now, I'm on track because I got to build the truck. I'm talking to a guy that just an opportunity just came up to buy his route. That would give us a tremendous boost if we could cut a deal. Building out this new van that's never been done before for pest control, 4 service tanks inside a van, can't be done. I'm working on the podcast. I'm trying to finish the academy, but I got to develop the courses, but I'm doing a little different strategy on how to develop these courses to kind of speed up the process. But I'm diligently working on all of them. I'm devoting myself to one thing, being an expert in the pest control industry. Why? Because in the next 10 years, I'm going to be America's pest control guy. I don't care if the industry doesn't call me to speak at Pest World. I don't care if I ever get invited to an IPM symposium. I will have clout where it matters with the end consumer because that's who makes the buying decisions. I will influence the end consumer on how to buy pest control. The industry is not going to look up to me because I don't have the pedigree, and the industry doesn't like what I'm saying. But understand this, that I've created a platform for myself to help those technicians, the underdog, the small companies succeed, the guys who want to really get it done. This is Frank the Pest Geek wishing you a pestacular day.